Good afternoon and good morning. This is Chris Criollo with BMC Software. I'm an account manager on the Trackit team. Today is day 2 of our Trackit webinar live training series, where we're focusing on the expanded functionality of our brand new web-based, browser-based version of Trackit. Day 2, we're going to be looking primarily at the ITAM expanded functionality. And we are partnering with RJR Innovations, our premier partner for Trackit training, consulting services with regard to migrations and expanded functionality consulting. Today, Andy Hassan, the senior ITSM consultant, will be focusing on the expanded functionality around the BMC Client Management capabilities, including above and beyond inventory and remote. We also now have the ability to incorporate patch management, software deployment, as well as compliance. We also are joined by Sam Maloof, Senior Account Executive with RJR, and a number of other members of the RJR team. We're excited about the expanded functionality, and we really appreciate everyone jumping on today. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Sam, and we again appreciate everyone's time today and look forward to continuing this webinar live series. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Welcome, everybody. I hope everybody's having a great day. We have got a few people that are keep joining us, so I'll make this short and sweet. We are a premier consultant company for BMC. We're an exclusive BMC shop. We do, as well as L1 service provider for BMC product. And of course, BMC's got multiple products from, your Service Desk Express to Trackit, Footprints, and so on and so forth, BCM as well. We are the main exclusive BMC provider, so we resell their product, but as well, we do consulting services from implementation and A to Z implementation if you are a new customer. We also do health check on environments, as well as any upgrades, migration that needs to be done. We can assist with that. Today we have Andy Hassan. Andy is a senior consultant for RJR. He will provide us a quick 20-25 minutes demo of Trackit BCM integration, as well as what's client management is all about today. If you do have client management, like I said, we can do a health check to help you maximize and optimize that. So without further ado, I'll let Andy share his screen and start the demo.
Hey everyone. So let me just share my screen. I'll share the actual login screen for BMC Client Management. So if you know Client Management, this is your initial home screen. You have a bunch of charts here. There's wizards that you can do, and also some other configurations here. What I'll do is I'll mostly concentrate on the inventory, remote, patch, and deployment modules within client management. So first things off, once you have client management, you go into the asset discovery portion. You run a scan within your network to figure out, where your workstations are, your servers are, so your printers. Here in my demo environment, I have RJR VMS VR06, which is my master server. And I just did an auto scan within the actual subnet of that master server, and I've discovered these devices. So again, this is agentless discovery, where it just goes out using SMB protocols, finds out, if there's a server out there, if there's a printer out there, etc. Once we have that, we have a list of unmanaged devices, right? So this is agentless. So once we have the agent, the BMC Client Management agent installed, we can then go ahead and actually see the inventory associated with that device. So we here in my device topology, I have the master server, and I have 3 nodes here. One is a workstation. There's a laptop. So 2 workstations and a laptop. As you can see with the colors, RJR laptop 19 is offline, but it does have the agent installed. So it's in actual red right now. It's either turned off or not available within our network. So I can easily see that. Right. So with version 11, you had an audit license. So once you move over, you can actually, that converts over to an inventory license within BCM. Okay. So let me just open up my workstation 12 and look at the inventory of that machine. So because the agent is installed, it looks at what the actual hardware is on that workstation. So I know here's the computer name, here's the OS installed, here's my BIOS, how many processes we have, and my actual hard drives. So I could easily tell if I'm running out of room, or if I have plenty of room, or how many drives are actually on that machine. It also tells me what my IP address is, my actual host ID, etc. So once you have the audits going, you have this inventory piece module license that you've already bought. Also within here, I can see what software is installed based on, my add remove programs. I can see that, Office is installed, etc., on this machine. I'll talk about compliance later, but you could actually see that, I have my hardware compliance is there, and here my Foxit and Google Chrome is not compliant. Okay. When was the last time I've done my inventory? So hardware, November 8th, my patch, December 14th, etc. So easily, by right-clicking on this machine, I could see information for that actual device. Let me go back to my workstation, and within the integration within Trackit, there's a portion where you can right-click and get the information from Trackit and see remote control, direct access tools, etc. So instead of your agent logging into client management, they can easily do that within Trackit itself. It has that integration. So you can, from Trackit, remote control, have these direct access tools, file transfer, instant messaging, etc. Okay. We also have the patch module, so patch management. Here, I could easily look at what patches are needed and how to deploy those patches to those machines. Okay. So I choose what patches are needed and when to go ahead and apply it to those machines. What patches are pending install, what patches are installed, and what installation have failed. Okay. So here are my active patches. Here's my assigned devices that I need patched. I have device groups. We'll talk about, so that's a collection of devices that I can go ahead and apply the patches to. Deployment options. Do I want to reboot the machine afterwards? Do I need to pop up a message for them to see that an actual patch has been deployed, etc. So that's your patch jobs. So within client management, it automatically downloads the latest patch. So not only can we patch Windows, but we can patch, other applications out there using Shadlick is what they use for the actual database of patches. So it's not only Windows that we can patch, other software and applications can also be patched using BCM. So we can go ahead, if we only wanted critical patches, I can go ahead and set that up. Again, pre-install. Do I need a message popped up? What happens during the installation? Is it quiet mode? Do I let them stop the application, the patch from downloading, etc.? When do I need to reboot? What happens? And what patches are we going to apply? So for your application deployment for that module, we have packages and operational rules. So packages allows you to package up an application for installation to all your workstations. Here I have a couple of packages, so a 7-zip and Notepad++. So I built my package, but then I'm going to have to go ahead and using the operational rules here, go ahead and get that installed on those machines. So I build a operational rule. So operational rules are the automation of actual installation of the application. So here I've set up, my operational rule name and what are the steps that'll happen when I push out this operational rule to those workstations. So I can have multiple steps here. One is an advanced message box. So if I just click on that, so a message box pops up. It says 7-zip installations. Here's my text. I can add validation buttons labels here. So one is okay and one is cancel, right? What happens if there's a timeout of 40 seconds here? What happens after 40 seconds? Do I go ahead and go to the next page, next step, etc.? Okay. What happens if there's a screensaver popped up? Well, these are the actual steps, and there are multiple steps within client management. So one of them, there's a couple of steps in here. One is like power management. So if your company does not allow people to have their workstation, so let's say it's a library or a certain room within your environment that you wanted to go ahead and shut all the devices within that room to save power and save energy. We can do that by using the power management here. Okay. We also have steps for checking hard drive space. So if you have an application that uses up, let's say, the CTEMP directory, and you know that we need to clear those out because some applications or an error message will pop up. If we do not, we can go ahead and create an operational rule, push it out to those machines, and have it clear out the temp files, etc., from those machines. And so this is the power of management. So the operational rules here, there's multiple steps that we could do. There's multiple options that can be done using operational rules within client management. So here, my second step is to check the running processes. So some applications will not allow you to install unless, if there's an older version of that application in there, I could go ahead as my second step, go ahead and kill that application or that process. Here's my install package. So once I built that package, I go ahead and link it back. I have MSI exec, and here's the line that I need to run. I'm waiting 60 seconds for it to install, and I'm going to go ahead and update my software inventory so that I have an updated inventory list of that application within that machine. So when you have the BCM client management agent installed on the actual machine, it does an inventory of the machine itself and has a small database of that information within that machine, and it waits later on to upload that to your master server. Okay. So that's how it knows what that information is. The master server gets that information so that it knows what's on that device. The last thing is the compliance. So I've talked about the compliance here. I've set up a custom compliance where it looks at Foxit PDF to see if that's installed on the machine. So here's my criteria. Is that installed, etc. I could go ahead and add another criteria. Multiple criteria could be in there. So what's the results? So I'm looking at 2 devices, and none of them have Foxit PDF installed. What's nice thing about this is that I can right-click on that compliance and create a device group, so that once I get that device group, I could go ahead using the operational rules and, let's say, install Foxit PDF on those machines. There's other portions here, so I can right-click here, create a group that's compliant, create a device group where I've checked the criteria and nothing has come back. So I could come back, maybe that device is off the network and has not uploaded its inventory in a while. I can go ahead and do that. So we have out-of-the-box queries and reports in here. So patch inventory, so what devices have received its patch. Software inventory, I can take a look at, how many machines has Adobe Professional installed. I could easily do that because once I have the agent installed on the machine, it uploads the software inventory back to my master server. So that's a quick overview of what you get within client management. So again, if you have version 11 audits, then you already own the inventory piece for client management. The rest of it, you might have to go ahead and purchase the licensing for it. So that's my portion of the BMC Client Management. I'll I'll give it to Mike to show off the Trackit integration with client management. Mike?
Well, hey there. Good afternoon, all. Somebody just verified that you can hear me. I want to make sure nothing else goes wrong this morning.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, cool. I am Mike Johnson. I am the Trackit guy, and I'm going to show you the integration points and what this means directly to a Trackit perspective. All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen. Hopefully this also works better than yesterday, and you should see a Trackit login screen. And somebody scream loudly at me if you don't. I'm going to go ahead and log into Trackit. Of course, the new version is all web-based, still installed locally in your environment. Not sure if that was touched on before I arrived or not, but still run on a server that you manage. Doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be in your building, but could be AWS or Azure or anything else. It's something that you maintain. I left off in configuration, so I'm going to come right back into configuration. A lot of this build of Trackit is going to look familiar. There will certainly be some things that will be foreign to you, but most of it honestly is going to look fairly familiar. You have your individual modules here, including asset management, which we're talking about today, and this is where you come and see your assets. All right, you're still going to see assets associated to tickets. So if I come in here to help desk here and go to my favorite example ticket, which is this guy down here at the bottom. So you have your ticket information, you have your requester, you have your email, you have your phone, you have your location. So you bring your users in from Active Directory. They are going to come in with their Windows account information. Then when you run the audit, at least on the Windows machines, what we're going to do is we're going to look for the most frequent, most common user of a given machine, and that's who gets associated with that machine. And then assuming it's a one-on-one relationship between the user and that machine, that asset is automatically going to appear here as the asset name. So either from asset management or from a ticket where an asset is associated, you're going to have access to view all of the information that's been collected by audit, which is this here. I have all my hardware information. I have my software information, which you can organize and click on column headers, however it is you want. This is helpful when you're troubleshooting something related to .NET. You want to see what version of .NET is installed. It's helpful if you're looking to see how much physical RAM is already installed on the machine versus open slots. If you're troubleshooting a performance issue and you think additional RAM might be the solution. Just handy and helpful to have right there. And this is a result of you running an audit, which is handled by an inventory license, which was already stated, but I will restate now. If you have audit licenses in your current 11.4 or earlier build of Trackit, those convert to inventory licenses in the new build of Trackit. If you happen to have Mac audit licenses, those add on to the inventory licenses that you have in the new build of Trackit, because there's just one inventory license in the new version of Trackit with BMC Client Management. It's a be all end all. It will figure out what type of device it is and then put the correct agent on the machine when it installs it. And that gives you access to all this information. Same as inventory licenses, if you are currently licensed for remote control, you will have remote control in the new build. Those licenses are one-to-one, they convert over. In order to do that directly from a ticket, you just click the little binoculars icon up there, and it will put you right out on the desktop of the machine that you've connected to, which you see right here, which is my Trackit server. Again, very seamless, works with the ticket. I'm going to go ahead and close out of that. We're going to move fairly quickly through here. I'm going to close out of my ticket now. Now, what makes all this work from the Trackit side of things, I'm going to come over here into configuration. All right. And configuration is divided into sections. You have your self-service config, your lookups, which is your lists, application settings where we start, and asset management. Okay. Here's your BMC client management configuration. So when you install Trackit, you're automatically also going to be installing BMC client management. All right. It will stay kind of sort of invisible in the background. And then, you know, if and when you need to access functions that are above and beyond those functions that you can execute within the Trackit UI specifically, then you will see all of the stuff that you were shown earlier. Until then, you actually don't particularly really need to come in here unless something's gone wrong in your troubleshooting. All right, this is all going to be set up automatically for you when you install. But since it is separate and it's an integration, then you have the integration points. All right, asset synchronization. Because what you're doing, again, if you configure it over on the BMC client management side, then some of that data, particularly inventory collection information, the audit data, and the ability to remote control, that's ported over or synchronized over to Trackit. This is the engine part that does that. All right, so you can do a manual sync. You will almost certainly enable a scheduled asset sync, and you're probably going to want to check this box here. This is what looks for the most frequent user on a given machine to automatically associate that user to that particular machine. That checkbox there, that's all that's involved. All right, so this is really where the connection takes place, these two elements here. Now, you were shown, I'm assuming, probably how to do discovery from a BMC client management perspective. This is how you would do it if you were to do it directly from Trackit. And if you set it up over in the BMC client management side, then you will see this over here in Trackit. If you set it up in Trackit first, then you will see the back end over on the BMC client management side via the BMC client management console. All right. Looking at it from this perspective, really pretty straightforward. You have your subnets here, and this is where you're telling Trackit to look. You're probably going to schedule it here. Mine is not, that need to be pretend environment. And then one of your keys here is the agent configuration. All right. What you're doing here is you're supplying credentials that are going to be appropriate for all of the possible machines that you have out there. Okay. If you have multiple domains, you will have multiple sets of domain credentials. You may note, particularly if you happen to have multiple domains, that this version of Trackit handles multiple domains very well, whereas the previous version of Trackit kind of didn't at all. So that's one big change. All right. Another big change is the ability to have local administrator accounts. This is helpful if you happen to have a set of Windows machines that are in a work group for whatever reason. Maybe they're in a lab and you want them semi-separated from everything else, or you have Linux and Mac machines that are out there. So local credentials make sense. This is where you're going to put all that information. All right. So multiple types of machines, it'll automatically figure out what type of machine when it puts the agent on the machine. It will span multiple domains, and something was probably already brought up earlier, but I will reiterate now. You have the ability to set up what's called a relay agent. Okay. A relay agent is almost the same as any other agent that's on any other machine out there in your operating environment. The difference with a relay agent is it will be installed on a machine that is in your DMZ. It is public facing, and it will be ported back to your main BMC client management server. And what it does is it creates you a 256-bit secure encrypted tunnel between inside and outside. The net result of that is that any of the functions that BMC client management is capable of doing, you can do over the internet without the need for VPN. It will do that for you automatically. So you get an agent installed on a machine, the machine is out in the wild, wherever. It has the instructions as to how to connect to the BCM server. And if it doesn't find that, it has instructions to connect to the relay agent, and it will connect to the relay agent, and it will send back its audit results. It will listen and be ready to accept a remote control request. It will listen and be ready to accept patches if you're licensed for patch management. It will manage compliance management. It will handle software deployment. Okay? It will do all this via the relay agent over the internet without the need for VPN. Very handy feature. Proved to be especially useful in the initial stages of COVID, as loads of people who never worked from home were all of a sudden all working from home. And a lot of our organizations that we support, they didn't have really good or any at all VPN infrastructure in place. And really the key element here is checking this box. Automatically install agents on discovered devices. So you're running discovery, and when an asset is discovered, boom, you put the agent on it. It figures out exactly which one it is, and off it goes. Let's go back here. The other aspect here from this perspective is asset types. Okay. Now, read the silent word that is here with me. It is Trackit asset types. These are different from BMC client management asset types. Okay. This is a bit of a way to compensate for the fact that Trackit and BMC client management at its core does things just a little bit differently. In particular, the ability for Trackit to do a really good job with non-IT assets, things that don't have IPs. And that could be motor vehicles or refrigerators or all kinds of stuff that you want to track. That is not at all uncommon in Trackit world. You also have barcode, which is an option for tracking that allows you to manage and handle a physical inventory. All right. So Trackit asset types distinguish between the Trackit asset type that was set pre-2020 and what BMC Client Management will automatically set. And if you're managing it, particularly mostly from a Trackit perspective, and if you have anything that is non-IT in nature, you will probably pay an awful lot of attention to the Trackit asset types. And what that looks like on a record, we will go into my server here, is your Trackit asset type here. All right. It is a server. All right. I believe I customized mine and took off the BMC Client Management asset type. But here's an asset record from the Trackit side. Name, Trackit asset type, and there's my list here and my tree, my drop-down menu. Status date, and that's when it was last updated via whatever means. Departmental location, again, this should come over with the user when a user automatically associates to the asset record. IP domain, operating system MAC address. Like any of the forms in Trackit, if you have a department or your entire group or one group of 5 or whatever, you can have a form or forms created and you can modify those forms to have whatever data you want on those forms displayed in whatever order you want that data displayed. All right. So unlike the old build of Trackit, the forms are completely customizable. That would be your asset form, your help desk form, your ticket, your purchase order if you're using purchasing, change management if you're using that. User information in the center, again, by default. So you can move all this around. You can change the backgrounds and everything. You can change labels. Your financial information here that you collect here. Again, there's kind of a complement to this over on the BMC Client Management side. It's just a matter of exactly how you're doing things, where your data entry point is going to be, whether it's going to be on the Trackit side of things, which is likely to be the case for most of you. But there will also be some elements maybe that you may do over on the client management console side of things, particularly if you're licensed for software deployment, patch management, or compliance management. There are no configuration elements or direct connections for any of these on the Trackit UI side of things. All right. These are things that you will do exclusively over on the BMC Client Management console side of things. Again, any aspect of Trackit or BMC Client Management or anything related to BMC software that you're going to set up, we are your source for that. Just let us know. You have questions, you want to talk through what your needs are, and we can give you an idea of what sort of consulting engagement, 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, whatever you might need for that. Definitely have the conversation. We'll let you know. And we'll talk you through what you're doing, where you want to be moving forward, and we'll get you a statement of work set up and get you handled. Really quick at the bottom of the asset here, kind of straying away from direct assets. You have the list of tickets that are associated with the assets. You can get many of those. You have assignments. You have the ability to set up asset relationships, and you have attachments on the asset record. Anybody on the call that's used purchasing before might be familiar with the fact that when you receive an asset via purchasing, it gets assigned to tracked items, which is a subset of an asset record. This is over with in this version of Trackit. When you receive an item via purchasing, it goes directly in inventory now. Tracked items made sense at one point. That point is past. And that's all I'm going to say about purchasing for now, because we're not really focusing on purchasing. I really think that's all I wanted to show from an asset management perspective.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you, Andy. Thank you, Mike. That was great. I guess we still have a few questions in the Q&A. Please feel free, go ahead and type in your questions so we can answer them for you. I'd like to thank everybody who joined today. This webinar is recorded and will be on our website, rjrinnovations.com/webinars. And then also we will have a survey sent out to you shortly. So please go ahead and answer that. I'd like to thank everybody for their time. We had a very good amount of people show up for the call for the webinar today. Thank you and have yourself a great day. So we'll stay on for a bit to answer all the questions and have a great one. Thank you.